The history of life before humans. When the Earth was not meant for us, before humans ever walked the Earth. Before cities, fire, language, gods, or names. Before bones told stories and footprints marked the ground. Life was already here. For billions of years, the planet lived, breathed, fought, collapsed, and rebuilt itself, without us. And if humans vanished tomorrow, the Earth would continue. Just as it always has. This is not the story of mankind. This is the story of everything that came before. The forgotten rulers of the planet, the invisible life that shaped the air you breathe, and the ancient worlds buried beneath your feet. To understand who we are, we must go back to a time when the Earth itself was hostile, violent, and unfinished. This is where the real story begins. The birth of a dead world. About 4.6 billion years ago, the universe was chaos. Stars were being born and dying violently. Massive clouds of gas and dust spun around young suns like cosmic storms. From one of those clouds, something small began to form. A rocky object. Molten. Unstable. Bombarded from all directions. That object would become Earth. At first, Earth was not blue. It was not green. It had no oceans, no air, no life. The surface was a global ocean of lava. Asteroids slammed into it constantly, reshaping the planet again and again. Volcanoes erupted non-stop, vomiting toxic gases into the sky. There was no oxygen. No soil. No calm weather. Only fire, rock, and destruction. If you stood on early Earth, which you couldn't, you would be killed instantly. This was not a world meant for life. And yet, life was already preparing to arrive. The oceans that changed everything. As millions of years passed, the planet slowly cooled. The surface hardened. Water vapor released by volcanoes condensed in the sky. And then, it began to rain. Not for days. Not for years. For thousands of years. Endless rain filled the basins of the planet, creating the first oceans. These oceans were nothing like today's seas. They were acidic, hot, and full of dissolved metals. Lightning storms struck the water constantly. But inside this violent chemical soup, something extraordinary happened. Simple molecules began to interact. Carbon bonded with hydrogen. Chains formed. Structures appeared. No intention. No design. Just chemistry. Given time. And then, somewhere in the dark depths of the ocean, life began. The first life. Invisible rulers. The earliest life forms were tiny. Single-celled. Invisible to the naked eye. They did not have brains. They did not think. They did not feel. But they were alive. These organisms learned one simple trick: survive and replicate. They fed on chemicals in the water. They divided into copies of themselves. They spread. For billions of years, life on Earth remained microscopic. No animals. No plants. No movement on land. Just bacteria-like organisms ruling the oceans. And here's the shocking part. They changed the entire planet. The Great Oxygen Betrayal. Some of these tiny organisms developed a revolutionary ability. They learned how to use sunlight. Through a process we now call photosynthesis, they absorbed energy from the sun and released a waste product. That waste product was oxygen. At the time, oxygen was poison. As oxygen levels rose, it triggered one of the greatest mass extinctions in Earth's history. Countless organisms died. The sky changed color. The oceans changed chemistry. The planet transformed completely. But for the survivors, oxygen became a gift. It allowed life to become more complex. Bigger. Stronger. More energetic. Without these microscopic creatures, you would not exist. They built the atmosphere. They shaped the future. They ruled Earth longer than any animal ever would. Complex life emerges. Around 2 billion years ago, something new appeared. Cells began working together. Instead of existing alone, they formed complex cells with specialized parts. This was the birth of eukaryotic life, the foundation of all animals, plants, and fungi. Life was still underwater. Still slow. Still invisible from land. But evolution was experimenting. Multicellular organisms appeared. Soft-bodied creatures drifted in the seas. Some absorbed nutrients. Others began to move. The arms race had begun. The Cambrian explosion. Life goes crazy then. About 541 million years ago, something unbelievable happened. In a relatively short geological time, life exploded with diversity. This period is called the Cambrian explosion. Suddenly, oceans filled with bizarre creatures. Armored animals with spikes, worms with mouths full of teeth, creatures with multiple eyes, early ancestors of insects, fish, and arthropods for the first time. Animals hunted other animals, vision evolved, skeletons appeared, predators and prey shaped each other. Life was no longer passive. It was violent, competitive, brutal. Survival now depended on speed, armor, and intelligence, even without brains. The first kings of the sea. Fish emerged as dominant creatures. Some developed jaws, a massive evolutionary advantage. Others remained jawless, feeding on smaller organisms. These early fish were the first true vertebrates. Backbones appeared. Muscle control improved. Movement became powerful and precise. For millions of years, the oceans belonged to them. But Earth was about to change again. Life leaves the water. Plants made the first move. Simple algae adapted to survive at the edges of water. They crept onto land. They endured harsh sunlight and dry air. Eventually, plants evolved structures to hold water and stand upright. Land turned green. And where plants went, animals followed. Some fish developed stronger fins. Those fins became limbs. Gills turned into lungs. The first amphibians crawled onto land. This was one of the boldest moves in the history of life. The planet now had two worlds, sea and land. Monsters, forests, and the age before dinosaurs. When we left off, life had just done the unthinkable. It had escaped the oceans. Plants were spreading across bare rock. Animals were crawling onto land for the first time. The earth was changing its skin. But this was not yet the world of dinosaurs. Not even close. This was a stranger world. A wilder world. A forgotten era where giant insects ruled the skies, forests were alien, and evolution experimented without mercy. Welcome to the age before dinosaurs. A green planet is born. As plants took over the land, something extraordinary happened. They didn't just decorate the earth. They reshaped it. Roots broke apart rock, creating the first true soil. Plants pulled carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Oxygen levels rose dramatically. Rainfall patterns changed. Rivers formed. Continents began to stabilize. The earth was no longer just surviving. It was thriving. Massive forests spread across the land, but these were not forests you would recognize. There were no flowers. No grass. No trees with leaves like today. Instead, the land was dominated by towering club mosses, giant ferns, and strange tree-like plants with hollow trunks. Some of these plants grew over 30 meters tall. And inside these forests, something terrifying was evolving. The age of giant insects. Oxygen levels climbed far higher than today. And insects responded. They grew enormous. Dragonflies with wingspans wider than a human arm dominated the skies. Millipedes longer than a car crawled through the undergrowth. Spiders reached terrifying sizes. There were no birds. No bats. Nothing to compete with them in the air. Insects ruled. For the first time in Earth's history, land ecosystems were alive with movement, buzzing, crawling, hunting. But insects were not alone. Amphibians, the first land giants. Early amphibians thrived in this oxygen-rich world. They were no longer small, fragile creatures. Some grew to the size of crocodiles. They hunted fish in rivers and preyed on smaller land animals. They laid eggs in water, tying them to wet environments. For millions of years, amphibians were the top predators of the land. But evolution was not done. A new kind of animal was preparing to take over. Invention that changed everything. The amniotic egg. One single evolutionary innovation changed life forever. The amniotic egg. Unlike amphibian eggs, these eggs did not need water. They carried their own life support system. This allowed animals to fully escape wetlands and spread across dry land. From this moment onward, Earth belonged to a new group, reptiles. They had scaly skin that prevented water loss. They laid eggs on land. They could survive in harsh, dry environments. And once reptiles appeared, there was no stopping them. The age before dinosaurs. Strange rulers of the land. Long before dinosaurs, reptiles dominated the planet. But they didn't look like the reptiles you know today. Some walked upright on two legs. Others sprawled low to the ground. Some were predators. Some were herbivores. Massive creatures with tusks, beaks, and armored bodies ruled the land. This was the age of synapsids, animals that looked vaguely reptilian but were actually closer to mammals. Yes, our ancestors were already here. These creatures hunted, fought, and survived in a brutal world. And then, the Earth struck back, the first great mass extinction on land. About 252 million years ago, the planet experienced the worst extinction event in its history. The Permian extinction. Up to 90% of all species vanished. Volcanic eruptions covered entire continents with lava. Toxic gases filled the atmosphere. Oceans became acidic and lifeless. Forests collapsed. Food chains shattered. Life on Earth nearly ended. If you were alive then, survival was almost impossible. This extinction was so severe that it nearly erased all complex life. But some creatures survived. And those survivors would inherit a broken world. A world rebuilt from ash. After the Permian extinction, the Earth was quiet. Empty landscapes stretched for miles. Ecosystems were shattered. Life had to start over. Evolution moved fast. With so many competitors gone, surviving species diversified rapidly. Reptiles adapted to new roles. Predators became larger and faster. Herbivores evolved new defenses. And from this chaos, a new lineage quietly rose. The dawn of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs did not appear suddenly as giants. They started small. Lightweight. Fast. Efficient. Their legs were positioned directly under their bodies, allowing better movement and endurance. They could outrun predators. They could travel long distances. They could survive harsh conditions. At first, dinosaurs were minor players. But then, another extinction event struck. And this time, it cleared the stage just for them. The rise, reign, and fall of the dinosaurs. The age of giants begins. The Earth has been wiped clean before. And now, from the ashes of mass extinction, something new takes control. Not suddenly. Not loudly. But once it does, nothing can challenge it. For over 160 million years, dinosaurs ruled the land, sea, and sky. They were not a single species. They were not all monsters. They were an empire of life, diverse, intelligent, brutal, and strangely delicate. This was not their world by accident. They earned it. A world made for dinosaurs. The continents were joined together in a vast supercontinent called Pangaea. There were no polar ice caps. The climate was warm, humid, and violent. Seas flooded inland regions, creating shallow oceans rich with life. Plants flourished everywhere. This world rewarded size, speed, and endurance. Dinosaurs evolved exactly what this planet demanded. Why dinosaurs dominated? Dinosaurs succeeded for one key reason: efficiency. Their upright posture allowed them to breathe while running. Their bones were light but strong. Many had advanced respiratory systems similar to birds. They didn't just survive. They outperformed everything else. While other reptiles struggled, dinosaurs expanded into every niche. Small hunters. Massive plant eaters. Armored tanks. Aerial predators. Evolution gave them options, and they used all of them. The first true giants. Some dinosaurs grew larger than anything that had ever walked on land. Long-necked sauropods towered over forests. Their footsteps shook the ground. Their bodies weighed more than airplanes. They fed constantly, stripping entire landscapes of vegetation. How did they survive? Enormous digestive systems herd behavior. Constant movement across continents. Predators followed them. And where prey grows large, so do hunters. The kings of death. Carnivorous dinosaurs evolved into precision killers. They didn't just rely on size. They used speed, pack hunting, ambush tactics, bone-crushing bites. Some hunted alone. Others coordinated in groups. They were apex predators, not because they were violent, but because they were efficient. Nothing wasted energy. Nothing hunted without reason. In this world, hunger ruled all. Dinosaurs were not dumb. Here's the truth many people don't like to hear. Some dinosaurs were intelligent. They cared for their young. They nested. They communicated. They remembered hunting routes and seasonal patterns. Evidence shows complex social behavior in several species. They were not mindless beasts. They were animals, shaped by time, pressure, and survival. And while dinosaurs ruled the land, other life was evolving quietly in the shadows. The hidden survivors, early mammals. Mammals already existed during the age of dinosaurs. But they were small, nocturnal, vulnerable. They hid underground. They lived in trees. They avoided attention. While dinosaurs dominated the daylight, mammals mastered the night. They developed warm-blooded metabolism, fur, advanced hearing and smell. They survived by being invisible. And that invisibility would one day save them. The oceans of monsters. Dinosaurs did not rule the seas. The oceans belonged to marine reptiles. Massive predators with jaws full of teeth hunted in open water. Some were longer than buses. Others were fast, agile, and unstoppable. The seas were no safer than the land. Every environment on Earth was dangerous. Life everywhere was in competition. The sky becomes crowded. Flying reptiles ruled the skies. With wings made of stretched skin and bone, they soared over oceans and forests. Some were small and agile. Others were as tall as giraffes when standing. The sky itself became a battlefield. But evolution was about to pull off a surprise twist. Dinosaurs that became birds. Some small dinosaurs developed feathers. At first, feathers weren't for flight. They were for insulation, display, communication. Over time, feathers changed shape. Arms became wings. Bodies became lighter. Flight became possible. Birds were born. And here's the truth. Dinosaurs never fully went extinct. Birds are dinosaurs. They are the last living rulers of that ancient empire. The day the world ended. About 66 million years ago, something fell from the sky. An asteroid, wider than a city, slammed into Earth. The impact released energy beyond imagination. Firestorms swept across continents. Tsunamis drowned coastlines. The sky filled with dust and ash. The sun disappeared. Plants died. Food chains collapsed. Dinosaurs, huge, energy-demanding animals, could not survive this new world. Within a geological blink, they were gone. Why some life survived? Not everything died. Mammals survived because they were small, adaptable, able to eat almost anything. Birds survived because they could fly and exploit scattered resources. Reptiles survived by slowing their metabolism. Life didn't end. It changed direction. The rise of mammals, a world without giants. The dinosaurs are gone. The Earth is quiet in a way it hasn't been for millions of years. No thunderous footsteps. No towering shadows moving through forests. What remains is a damaged planet, scarred, cooling, and uncertain. But in this silence, opportunity is everywhere. Because when the giants fall, small things inherit the world. A planet reset. The asteroid impact didn't just kill dinosaurs. It reshaped the planet. Temperatures dropped. Seasons became harsher. Forests transformed. Life now required adaptability, not size. For the first time in over 160 million years, dinosaurs no longer controlled evolution. And mammals, once hiding, waiting, surviving quietly, stepped into the light. Why mammals took over? Mammals didn't rise because they were stronger. They rose because they were flexible. They had warm-blooded bodies, fur for insulation, live birth, advanced brains, emotional bonding and care. They could survive cold nights. They could adapt to new food sources. They could learn. This was evolution shifting its priorities. Brains mattered now. An explosion of new life with dinosaurs gone, ecosystems emptied overnight. Mammals rushed in. Some grew larger. Some stayed small. Some climbed trees. Others returned to the sea. Within a few million years, mammals diversified into early horses, primitive whales, large predatory mammals, tree-dwelling creatures with grasping hands. Evolution experimented rapidly. Every available niche was claimed. The return to the oceans. Some mammals made a shocking move. They went back to the water. From land animals, they evolved into whales and dolphins. Legs shrank. Bodies streamlined. Nostrils moved to the top of the head. They became masters of the oceans once more. The seas, once ruled by reptiles, now belong to mammals. Ice, fire, and climate war. Earth entered a period of intense climate change. Ice ages came and went. Sea levels rose and fell. Land bridges formed and vanished. Entire species were forced to migrate or die. Only the adaptable survived. This constant pressure shaped smarter animals, creatures capable of learning, planning, and remembering. And among them, a particular group began to stand out. The forest thinkers. In dense forests, some mammals adapted to life in the trees. They developed forward-facing eyes, grasping hands, flexible shoulders, strong social bonds. These were primates. They lived in groups. They communicated. They remembered food locations. They cared deeply for their young. This was not accidental. Complex environments reward complex minds. The brain arms race. Predators grew smarter. Prey learned to deceive. Social structures became more complex. Brains expanded. Memory, cooperation, and emotion became survival tools. The world was no longer ruled by claws and teeth alone. It was ruled by decision-making. When the forest shrank, climate shifts began to dry the planet. Forests retreated. Grasslands spread. Tree-dwelling primates faced a choice: adapt or vanish. Some stayed in the trees. Others came down. The first upright walkers. On the open plains, standing upright offered advantages. You could see predators from afar. You could carry food. You could use your hands freely. Slowly, over countless generations, some primates began walking on two legs. This was not a single moment. It was a long, painful experiment. But once it started, it could not be undone. Tools before humans. Long before humans, there were tool users. Stones used to crack nuts. Sticks used to dig. Objects used with intention. Brains were growing larger. Curiosity was forming. The line between animal and human was blurring. But humans still did not exist. Not yet. The edge of humanity. Life just before us. The world holds its breath. The earth has seen firestorms. It has survived frozen ages. It has buried giants beneath layers of stone. And now, for the first time in its long history, the planet is no longer ruled by size, speed, or strength. It is ruled by thinking. This is the moment just before humanity appears, when life stands on the edge of something dangerous, powerful, and irreversible. A world of smart animals. By now, mammals dominate nearly every environment. The oceans echo with the songs of whales. The plains thunder with hoofs. Forests whisper with movement. Animals are no longer simple. They plan. They remember. They cooperate. Predators stalk with strategy. Prey escape with deception. Intelligence is no longer rare. But one group is evolving faster than all others. The rise of advanced primates. Some primates develop larger brains than their relatives. Their hands become more precise. Their social bonds deepen. Their communication grows more complex. They recognize individuals. They form alliances. They mourn their dead. These are not humans. But they are no longer just animals. The most dangerous discovery at some point: natural fires appear. Lightning strikes forests. Flames sweep across dry grasslands. Most animals fear fire. But some learn to use it. Fire provides warmth. Fire drives away predators. Fire transforms food. Cooked food releases more energy. Brains grow larger. Fire changes biology. Once fire is mastered, evolution accelerates. A brain that won't stop growing. Brains are expensive. They consume massive energy. They demand better nutrition. But the payoff is enormous. Memory improves. Learning accelerates. Imagination begins to flicker. These beings can now picture the future. They can plan beyond the present moment. This ability will change the Earth forever. Language before words. Communication deepens. Not speech as we know it, but sounds, gestures, expressions, and shared understanding. Information passes between generations. Knowledge no longer dies with the individual. Culture is born. This is something entirely new in Earth's history. The first true tools. Tools are no longer random objects. They are shaped with intention. Stones are struck precisely. Edges are sharpened. Objects are carried long distances. Toolmaking requires foresight. It means thinking ahead. And once a species begins shaping its environment, the balance of nature starts to tilt. Apex predator without claws. These creatures are not the strongest. They are not the fastest. They are not the largest. But they are the most adaptable. They hunt in groups. They coordinate. They outthink. They are becoming something unprecedented. An apex predator powered by intelligence. Extinctions begin again. Large animals start disappearing. Not from climate. Not from asteroids. But from pressure. Hunting becomes more efficient. Territories shrink. Ecosystems feel strain. For the first time, life itself becomes the driving force behind extinction. The Earth is changing direction again. The thin line between before and after. Now we reach the edge. On one side, a planet shaped by natural forces, life evolving slowly over millions of years, balance enforced by climate and biology. On the other side, a species that can reshape landscapes, a mind that can imagine domination, a future that no longer belongs only to nature. Humans are about to appear. And once they do, there is no going back. Before we arrived, before humans, the Earth was not peaceful, but it was balanced. Predators rose and fell. Forests expanded and vanished. Life adapted, patiently, blindly, endlessly. Then intelligence crossed a threshold. And the rules changed. Humans did not inherit a quiet planet. They inherited a world forged by 4 billion years of struggle. Every breath you take was prepared by microscopic life. Every step you walk rests on extinct worlds. Every thought you think is the result of evolution pushing its limits. This is the history of life before humans. And it reminds us of one simple truth: we are not the beginning. We are the consequence.